problem. Okay. So we're now recording and we're going to start with introductions. I'll go ahead and start. My name is Samantha. I'm the time bank coordinator here, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And if everyone could just follow that pattern of their name, pronouns, and basically what their role is in DACU, that'd be great. So I'm going to go ahead and go through based on who's on my screen. Florence, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Florence Hamilton. I'm a member of the time bank, and it's she and her.
Great, thank you, Florence, and thanks for coming. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you for the help.
Of course, anytime. And then we'll go ahead and go to Catherine.
I am Catherine Judd, Carrie's mom, and she, her, hers.
Great, thanks for coming. And we'll go to Carrie. I got Mikhail and Carrie. I was like, Kale.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Carrie Bachman. I direct Doñana Communities United. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Carrie. And now Mikhail.
I am Mikhail. I am on the Time Bank Steering Committee, and I've been a member of the Time Bank for, gosh, almost 3 years, 2.5 years. And my pronouns are they, them, theirs.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Mikhail. And we'll move on to Adalis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adalis. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Cruces Contigo coordinator at DACU. Hello, everyone.
Thanks for coming. And Linda. Hi, Linda.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Linda Hill, a Time Bank member, and my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Linda. And then last but not least, we have the guest of the hour, which is Susana. And Susana, after you introduce yourself, you can go ahead and just dig into your presentation.
Sure. Hi, Susana Santillan. I'm also a new Time Bank member. And I wanted to recommend for those that can't, like Catherine, she didn't know who was speaking. She can click on where it says speaker view, and that way whoever's speaking will come up there. I think that way she can see us closer. Can you hear me, Catherine? Hello? Hello?
Catherine, were you able to see if you could switch it to the speaker view? It's a bigger view of everyone, so you might be able to see lips better. Not sure.
Can you hear us? No? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you can hear me. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna start off this little presentation to give you a little testimony about myself, how I ended up working for the Commission for Deaf and Hard of Hearing. She's having problems with it. Are you okay there? Everybody okay? Shall I go back or start or wait?
Yeah, you can go ahead and start. Yeah, it's very
okay.
So we're good.
So, anyway, I work for the New Mexico Commission for Deaf and Hard of Hearing here in Las Cruces, but today is basically a personal little presentation. Some of you know about me. I ended up working with the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing due to I have 3 family members that are deaf or hard of hearing in my immediate family. When my daughter was 1.5 years, my second born, I have 3 daughters and 1 son. And when my second daughter was born, her name is Rosie. So Rosie was born, and when she was like 1.5 years, they told me she was profoundly deaf. Well, so there's a variety of different deafness that you can go through, you'll find out once you're diagnosed from your audiologist, whether you're mild, hard of hearing, or whatever. With her, when they told me she's profoundly deaf, I'm going like, what does it mean? That means she's gonna go deaf sooner or later. She's gonna be totally deaf. I'm like, oh my God, she was just a baby. I knew something was wrong with her, but people kept telling me that, oh no, you're crazy. You just speak real soft. I said, if that was the case, why does my eldest daughter hear me and the second one doesn't? So anyway, when they told me that she was gonna go deaf, I said, well, at least I'm not crazy, but I think I would have been better crazy than deaf at the time. But okay, I accepted it. It took me, first you gotta accept it and then go through the grievance, and you don't know nothing. In those days, I mean, yesterday was her birthday. Rosie's birthday, she turned 42. So we're talking about in the 70s or early 80s, well, 70s still, when I found out she was deaf or losing her hearing. Nobody told me anything. There was no internet. I didn't know anything about internet. I was very low income, lived with my mom, had been divorced. I had my oldest daughter and her. So I didn't know nothing. They just told me she's deaf, and I'm like, that's it, go home. So my mind started thinking, how am I gonna educate this child? How am I gonna communicate with her? And all these questions started popping up in my head. How am I gonna talk to her? So a couple of weeks or a month passed by, and somebody came to my house and they knocked and they said they were here from ECI. I'm like, huh? ECI, Early Childhood Intervention, is a program that for children with disabilities. And they came to my house and they told me, we're gonna come and teach you sign language. What's that? Well, sign language is how deaf people communicate in sign. So the first sign they taught us was her name. Her name is Rosie. This, your hand like this, with here like you're smelling it, is a flower. So her name is with an R, so Rosie. So they changed it to Rosie. So then mom and I love you. This is the I love you. I'll show you the ABCs and a few signs after, but if you see the presidents and everybody, they go, I love you. This is I love you, okay? It's not like this rock, but with this other one. I love you. So the I love you, people say, well, do I go like this or do I go like this? Usually towards the front, because you're saying I love you to whoever you're saying I love you to, okay? Doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. So they taught us a few signs. The first day was just the name, mom, and I love you. Mom, everything from female down is right here. Up here, up is male. Father, mother is the same. Sister, girl, same. Girl, same is sister. Boy, same is brother. Boy, same, okay? So stop me because I have the tendency of talking real fast sometimes, okay? If you cannot hear me or understand something, please let me know. So I get excited when I talk about this because it's my life, my daughters, everything I went through with them. So when we learned sign language, little by little, it took me forever. It was harder for me because my hands were like, I couldn't, and my daughter, my oldest one was like, she picked it up like sponge. They both would communicate with each other. So I used her as a sign language interpreter, not knowing that it's against the law. You're not supposed to use your family members, okay, to sign, especially on a legal aspect. Why? Because, especially she's a little girl. And if there was like, let's say, for example, we had issues where a policeman shows up and there's a domestic violence or something, and they use the daughter or the son for interpreting. They're kids, you're not supposed to be interpreting against your parents, and I saw this, and they're supposed to bring a legal licensed interpreter for this matter. But a lot of people don't know, and they're so used to using their children, their hearing children. And there's a story I saw not too long ago, my daughter, I forgot the name of it, but in the 40s or 50s when they used to do that. It was so sad because this little girl saw her little brother fall and die, and she had to interpret everything that was happening to the police, and it was so sad. But anyway, it's hard for individuals that don't know that. But I learned so many things that, like I said, going through my daughter's life. Like when she was a year and a half, so we started learning sign. We're talking a year and a half. They only went to teach us sign up to when she was 3 years old. When she was 3, they stopped because they said at 3 years old, she can start school. And there was some classes. It was a regular school. They called the elementary school in El Paso was Hillside. They have here the elementary school for hearing Las Cruces is that one on road. Is it Railroad? No. The one next to the hospital, Mountain View Hospital over here, there's a school. I forgot the name of it. It's a Desert Hills or something
Desert
like
Hills.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's a regular school, but then there's a program for the deaf. They had that over there. They have the elementary, the middle school, and the high school, regular schools, but then they have a certain section for the deaf. Okay, a deaf ed class, what they call it. And then every state has their own deaf school for the deaf. Like in Austin, in the capital, in Austin is the school for the deaf in Texas. Santa Fe here in Las Cruces has it in Santa Fe, because that's their capital. Every capital has their school for the deaf. So here I am trying to learn the sign, and I didn't know. So I kept hearing something about Gallaudet. There's the school for the deaf in Austin. So I said, I want to go and see so she can learn, more. So I went, I even packed my stuff, and we all went to visit Austin, spent a couple of days there. And I said, I want to bring my daughter to the school so she can stay. So she can learn more. She says, well, she has to, you have to sign this paper. It's a boarding school. I didn't know it was a boarding school. I said, oh, no. I'm going to move to Austin so she doesn't have to stay in the school. I can drive her to school every day. They said, no, it's a boarding school. You have to leave her here. And then we'll send her in a bus to your home on the weekends. So I said, oh, no. I didn't want that. I said, no. I couldn't, to me, it was so hard to leave my daughter being raised by somebody else. I said, no, I got to learn this sign language, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to learn it. So I was talking to one of her teachers. By this time, Rosie was already going to be 5 years old. And her teacher told me, well, there's sign language here at the Center for the Deaf. I'm like, huh? Where's that? She says, then she told me there was a Center for the Deaf. Now they don't have a Center for the Deaf in El Paso. I wish every city had a Center for the Deaf because parents need it. The Center for the Deaf was a center, it was for deaf and hard of hearing, and it had different programs. It had a program for what they called the friendship program, where they united a hearing person with a deaf person. They become friends, and they would visit each other, sort of like the one that one of you, Adalise has, I think. What is it called? Contigos or Comina, what is it called?
Cruces.
Anyway, the one that, I'm sorry?
Cruces contigo.
That one. So for you get one hearing person with a deaf person. So and they become friends. And the hearing person learns sign language with that person. And the deaf person learns other stuff with them. They do stuff together. So they had that program. They had the sign language classes. They had the senior program where the seniors who were hard of hearing were learning signs, and they had social functions. They also had the ASL classes for the deaf adults, because a lot of deaf came from Mexico or other regions that didn't grow up signing. They joined that group as well. So there was a lot of activities going on. And I joined the center. That was my life. I volunteered everywhere. I even became the coordinator for the children's program. They had a children's program. And they said, well, you practically live here. Why don't you become, when the lady resigned because her husband was a soldier, he got moved, stationed in another city or state. They told me I could take over the children's program. The children's program was, every Saturday we would do different events. Like I would call UPS and we could go visit UPS and they show them how they work. Go to the TV station, they'll show them how the TV station works. So the deaf could learn all these things that were going on. A lot of free stuff, a lot of different things they learn.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Would you please speak a little more slowly?
Okay, I forget.
Thank
See,
you.
that's what I see.
Thank you.
So yeah, and that's one of the things that when somebody can't hear very well, if we speak too fast, all she hears is blah, 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 blah. That's all she is hearing. So thank you for reminding me. And yeah, because I get excited and I speak fast. My daughter's the same, but she signs fast. So there were a lot of different programs. So the Center for the Deaf became my life. So we worked my schedule around the center. Then I ended up working at the Center for the Deaf. as the secretary, I left, I told the secretary there, if there's ever an opening here, please let me know. I want to work here. Because I thought if I work with the deaf community, I'm going to pick it up more, which I did, because they had so much patience to teach me sign, more than my daughter. At the same time, you got to remember, my daughter didn't speak. I didn't know that deaf people could speak. Till one day, a teacher told me, I was telling her, you know, well, too bad that I haven't learned sign language enough and my daughter doesn't speak. And she tells me, oh, your daughter can speak? Like what? She says, yeah, she's getting speech classes. What's that? So they told me what speech classes were. And I said, well, I want to learn that so I can teach her at home. So they put me together with a speech therapist of the school, and she taught me. It was so simple. Grab her hand, put it here, repeat the word, put it back on her, repeat the word, water, water, water. So I would do that with her. Get her little hand, the person's hand, put it on myself and her. So whenever she wanted something, she would say, she would sign water, like voice. And she would get frustrated. She just wanted to sign at first. She was little, remember? So she would throw her temper tantrum and say, I'm not gonna give you nothing till you come and voice with me. So she would grab my hand, okay, water, water, and she would try little by little. If you knew once, hopefully one of these days you'll meet my daughter. She lives here in Cruces. She speaks very well now. Like my supervisor is also deaf, but she speaks very well. I met my supervisor in 1989 at the Deaf Center. She used to work at that program for the friendship program. She was the coordinator there. When I first met her, I didn't know she was deaf. 2 weeks later, after she had started working, she was behind me making copies. And I was talking to her and she wouldn't answer me. So I go, Sandy, I'm asking you a question. And she goes, you are? Well, remember, I'm deaf. I'm like, huh? You're deaf? I didn't know you were deaf. You speak so well that I didn't know she was deaf. So that's how I found out she was deaf. Anyway, it happens sometimes. And people don't know, oh, you're deaf, but you can talk. There's a difference of being deaf mute and being deaf. There's some deaf people that do not talk or were never learned, didn't want to learn. But that's another culture. There's different cultures. There's a deaf culture with a capital D, which all the deaf that are considered capital D is that they were born deaf. They never used their voice, never used hearing aids. So their deaf culture is like just using sign language. There's the deaf with a capital D, which probably became deaf at a later time, or probably just didn't want to learn sign language. They just learned how to voice. A long time ago, they were forced to be oral. Whether they were deaf or not, they were forced to be oral. So a lot of deaf were in the what was it, 50s, I believe. They were in schools forced to be oral. So people now they say, I choose deaf, not voice, or deaf and voice. It's up to each one. Mainly you'll see people that have hearing aids. Even though they're deaf, they hear some sounds, so it helps them wear their hearing aids, okay? So you gotta remember when they're wearing a hearing aid, they don't hear the same as what we call normal hearing. I found out through her audiologist, my daughter's audiologist, that they hear sort of like when you're swimming underwater and somebody's talking to you, that's how they hear. That's what was explained to me. My daughter, Rosie, has a cochlear implant now because as time went by, I've been here almost 5 years, so 7 years ago, she got the cochlea. She lost all of her hearing on her left side, 95% loss on her right side, meaning she only had 5% of hearing on her right. And her kids were still little, young. And she was afraid that she couldn't hear them no more. Her husband is deaf as well. She has 2 boys, 2 sons, right now 11, and the other one's gonna be 12. And they're both hearing. The children came out hearing, but her husband and her are deaf. So when she lost all of her hearing, she says, Mom, I'm gonna get my cochlear implant. And I said, well, I've heard about a cochlear implant throughout the years. It helps some people and it doesn't help some people. I've heard where a couple, both of them had the cochlea on. It worked for the man, but it didn't work for the wife. I've heard children have had cochlear implant. Some of them, it helps them, some of them it doesn't. And what happens is if it doesn't, you just go completely deaf. Okay, so I said, are you sure? Because you're gonna go completely deaf if it doesn't work for you. She says, what do I have to lose? I already lost 100% on here and 95% here. I said, okay. She had that surgery done with a specialist. At that time, she was still in El Paso. So she went to San Antonio. I went with her. She had the cochlea. It's what they do is they do surgery right behind the ear. They open and they put like a magnet. If you Google cochlear implant, you can see where they put like a little magnet and then the hearing aid. So that when she had that done, the next day after they did the surgery, they I guess pair it up with the computer, with her sound and stuff like that. So when we left the doctor's office, the first thing she heard was the blinker on the car going, and she goes, Mom, is that the blinker on the car? I'm like, yeah, you can hear it. Because she was lying down and like, yes. And then an ambulance passed by. I hear the ambulance. Oh my God. She was all excited. She could hear now from the ear that she couldn't hear. So we were like, oh my God, we're all excited. But after that, after the medication wore off, she had headaches for like 2 weeks, but it went away, thank God. She was like, oh, my head hurts. So
can I say something? I just want to say that to me, the scary thing about a cochlear implant is that you never hear anything again unless it's through the cochlear implant. So in other words, your normal hearing is gone. And that to me is very scary to think of having that surgery. Was your daughter scared or?
Well, like I said, she had already lost all of it on this side. And she had already lost 95% on this one. So she says, what do I have to lose? And besides, she used sign language to communicate as well. So she learned sign language. Whereas other people, I'll tell you a client I had, she was in her 20s, a soldier. I met her at Deming at a job fair. And she came to my office because she said she lost all of her hearing on both ears. I think she was 28 or 29 years old. And she said she didn't know what to do. So we talked, there's several services. We talked about DVR, who will help her find employment, school. We talked about sign language. We talked about other stuff because she lost her hearing overnight. The doctor told her it was because of trauma. She was in Iraq and something that happened in Iraq. I don't know if it's the bomb or whatever. She didn't went through details and I didn't ask if she wanted to tell me. It's up to her. But anyway, and we helped her get her self back up a little bit. So I guess she's doing okay because I haven't heard back from her no more. After we assist her with the resources and technology and stuff. So things happen like that. But yeah, a lot of people, it's scary, because if you don't have another way of communicating, you have to learn another language. So usually when you're hard of hearing, I always recommend learn sign language. If I lose my hearing, at least I already know that I can communicate with somebody. And I just love that language. It's just so wonderful. So this is with her hearing loss. When she was 8 years old, my daughter has always worn glasses since she was little. And my mom used to help me with her when I was working at that time. And she would take her to her eye exams. And my mom said, the doctor wants to see me. He made an appointment for you. He wants you to go. I'm like, I wonder why. I mean, why usually they just prescribe her glasses and that's it. So I thought, oh, they're probably gonna give her those thick glasses or whatever, because they had given her thick ones before. And when we went, this is the sad part where I get so sad still. They told me she had Usher syndrome. And I'm going, what's that? They said, it's retinitis pigmentosus with deafness, which means her sight is gonna start going slowly, little by little by little, till. And at the rate she's going, she was only 8 years old. And they told me that by age 15, she was gonna lose all her sight.
Oh.
But it's like, wow, you know? Age 15 to us Hispanic is like the quinceañera, the joyous like sweet 16 for Americans, right? So here I was, single parent with 2 little girls, and finding out that my daughter was gonna go blind. So now she wasn't just gonna be deaf, she was gonna be blind. And I had nobody to share with, nobody that could understand, or even my parents said, oh, the doctor's crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. She's fine, you know, and nobody, so I didn't know what to do. You know, I just cried by myself. Didn't tell her, they left me by myself. They didn't tell me nothing. They didn't say, do this or go for help there or stuff like that. They just said, she has this, we'll leave you alone for a little bit. Let us know when you're ready. You're welcome to leave. That's it. So I went home, I cried by myself, and that's it. And I told my boss, my supervisor, the closest people that were close to me, what was going on. And everybody got in prayers, and all we could do was pray for her, right? I have an uncle who's a preacher in California. They came to visit us and took her to California. My 2 daughters they said, well, take them to Disneyland and take her to here and there so she can see everything. So before she loses her sight. So one summer they took them and they went. The first time my kids were ever away from me. Never were they away from me. So that was hard, but I wanted her to see what, you know, was out there. And then at that time, she was 8, I found out about the Lions Camp. There's in Texas, there's a Lions Camp, also here, I believe, that a gentleman in the school came to talk to the parents at the parents teachers conference. And they said, there's a Lions Camp for the deaf and disabled. So at those days, they used to stay 2 weeks camping. So they show us this video, and I'm like, I can't send to me, my daughters grew up so close to me, I had them like right there. And so she went camping. She learned so much. She learned how to horseback ride and swim, and she became very independent. I always taught my children even to be very independent. That when, one of the favorite stories, my daughter is a deaf ed teacher in El Paso. She teaches high school kids, freshmen to seniors. She's actually, this is her 14th year that she's gonna be teaching. And she's one of our role models in El Paso. The Commission for Blind Services contacted me probably like a month or so after I was informed she had Usher's. I guess the doctor notified them that she was diagnosed with Usher's, and they sent me a letter. Now, I've always been very strict with my children, and we have rules, many rules. And my daughter does presentations. She mentors deaf, blind individuals. So she says that story. Mom was always very strict, which I was. And our rules was, we are not supposed to open the mail. If it's not under your name, you cannot open the mail. So what does Commission for Blind does? They send me a letter with all this information about Usher's, but to her name, not parent of Rosie, but Rosemary Yanez. I'm like, so my oldest daughter calls me crying, Mom, what's this? I'm like, huh? I was at work, okay? Luckily, I work 5 minutes away from my home. And she calls me and said that they got a letter from Commission for Blind Services saying that Rosie was gonna go blind. I'm like, why are you opening the letter? You're not supposed to open the letter. It's not, remember the rules. They said, no, it's under her name. Oh my God. Here she is, 8 years old, okay? A young little girl. How am I gonna tell her what's saying in the letter? So I told my boss, if you don't mind letting me go home, they're crying, blah, blah, blah. No, yeah, go ahead. So I went home. We cried. I explained whatever I could. I don't know much about it, but we have to work together as a family, stay strong. I told them the story about Helen Keller, how Helen Keller was deafblind and she was successful. So can you. But, you know, it was hard. But after she found out she was deaf, she was always very visual. We had just moved in the far east of El Paso, and at night she would go out. We had a mobile home. We were like 2 people in the same area. She would go, look, Mom, the stars. Look, Mom, this. And she was always pointing out to everything that she didn't notice before. So, and I remember like, one of the things that I was going to mention about my strictness was that when she was, I remember another rule that I have was, she wanted to go out and play. And I said, you cannot go out until you pick up your stuff. Remember, you got to pick up after yourself. Did you clean up your room? She said, yeah. And so I went to her room. Her toys and stuff were picked up, but her bed was not made. I said, you have not made your bed. She says, I can't. I say, why can't you? I'm deaf, me deaf. I'm like, oh my God. I said, no, never use your excuse, your disability as an excuse, never. And I got so upset and I told her, no. So she remembered that. One day for Mother's Day, it said, Mom, I make my bed. So she shows that in her presentation that I made my bed. So anyway, I could go on, but finally, you know, I did want to give you a little bit before I run out of time. Those are just certain points about my daughter and us. My oldest daughter learns sign language. We all work with deaf and disabled individuals. My husband works, you know, I remarried after 14 years? Yeah. And we had 2 other kids. None of them, my youngest son is hard of hearing as well. Mild, what they call mild. He's got a 30% hearing loss. My husband was diagnosed with hearing loss also when my son was diagnosed. And he has 35% hearing loss. So, and I'll show you, I'll see if I have an audiogram, a copy of the audiogram. I didn't bring it up before, but I'll look it up before I finish. But I did want to go over a few stuff of, where would I have that here, audiogram? Let me see if I have it here real fast so you can get an idea about an audiogram, okay? I didn't want to put there.
While we're doing that, do you know what like the average time is to learn sign language for people? Like, is it pretty like compared to like regular language, like a linguistic language? Is it easier?
Everybody is different in that aspect. I can't find it like the one I wanted to find, but anyway, everyone's different. Everybody, you know, there's people that just pick it up really fast, and some people like me that struggled. Like I think I don't know if I told you that I used to teach sign language in my parish, and I had like 10 kids, high school kids, different ages, and one senior. And she says, I won't be able to learn it because I don't have nobody to practice with. I said, you can practice on the mirror. Just do the ABCs and practice. The more you practice, the more you're gonna get it. She says, my hands are too stiff. I said, but the more you practice, they'll start getting flexible.
Oh,
she wants one of my best.
Your hands might get.
If you move them, they start, right now you might say, well, I have arthritis, or I have this. But if you move them little by little, more and more, like before, I only used to be ABC with this hand. Now I can do both A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J.
Wow.
Like that.
So there's just so many more benefits to it. Like I feel like for arthritis, you can have benefits for signing. And then also like you being able to use both hands, like that is really good for your brain. So that's cool.
So yeah, you know, it's very helpful for a lot of stuff. So, Another
And
thing that
then-
I wanted to tell you about was, remember, hearing loss is not a visible disability. So a lot of people don't know that they have hard of hearing or hearing loss until they tell you. So we have to be patient, and like Kathy told me right now, speak slower because it's very important for them to understand. If I do this or put something, it's hard for them to read lips.
And you know what is so awful now is all the masks, because I can't understand what people are saying with their masks on.
And we were talking about that right now. Samantha was asking me, are there any masks that the deaf community does? I'm gonna share a picture that we were looking at right now. That I was shared it with Samantha. Do you see that one? Do you see this picture
Yes.
of masks? The deaf community are making it.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's in El Paso, I know there's the deaf community making this mask. Okay.
Oh.
They're making all sorts of masks for the community, like this one. This has the, I'll take this off and stop sharing this. This one has the ABCs.
Oh.
Okay, and you can see it is really cool. It has A, B, C, D, E. And then it has a little hole, so they put a coffee filter for you can change it every day with the coffee filter, put it in the pack, and then just put it on, and like that.
What is
Maybe
it?
maybe you could share that group. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Catherine.
The coffee filter is to catch, you know how any whatever smoke or whatever comes in, it's supposed to help you also to breathe. That's what she said. So I guess it can get dirty if you're around where there's smoke or whatever environment you are at. But I thought they have so many different kinds. Some with "I love you," different people are making.
You'll have to give me the link and I'll share it with everyone, just like with the handouts that we have too.
Are you talking about the link that we were watching right now earlier?
Or just a link to where we can buy those masks from the deaf community.
With a Facebook? Okay, I'll ask my daughter to send it to me and I'll forward it to you.
And I can forward it to everyone else.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to show you, I know I'm probably gonna go, what time do we have? I don't wanna go over the limit, but see. I was gonna say that there's different ways to identify people with hearing loss, and they're considered either deaf, deafblind, hard of hearing, late deafness, and speech disabled. Okay, the deaf, of course, is people that cannot hear nothing. Even with a hearing aid, you cannot hear a thing. Deafblind would be my daughter who's visually deaf, even though she can still see some, because her sight is like a little like that, like seen through what do you call a straw. So if you come to her, you have to touch her first, like this right here. Don't touch in the back because you'll scare them. You have to either come this way, ahead in front, and then go like, hey. Because if you come too close, you'll scare her, because she can only see a particular amount of, what do you call it, peripheral vision. And then hard of hearing would be my husband and my son. Well, actually, my son is hard of hearing because since he was little, I knew he was hard of hearing, but he would never accept it. My husband is considered late deaf, or like us, when we start losing our hearing later on. And speech impairment could be anybody with autism or stroke, or there's so many, heart attacks, you can't talk. So we help individuals with speech impairment as well get free technology. And then there's different ways of communicating with the deaf. Like the deaf would be sign language, because they can't hear you, period. There's hard of hearing, like my daughter or my supervisor that can still hear some, but prefer to use sign language as well. And then if you cannot do sign language, of course, carry a little pad. Now with the cell phones, you can just text which is a lot easier for individuals to communicate with text. Also, read lips. Okay, a lot of people say, well, they can read lips. They don't need a sign language. Well, yeah, they can read lips, but what percentage do you think they catch when they read lips? Between 10 to 100. What's the percentage you think they can catch when somebody's reading lips? Anybody? Can you guess?
40%,
what percentage?
40%?
40%? Another
I'm
one?
gonna say 25.
25? One more. Going once, going twice.
30.
30, yes.
Wow.
30. Florence is correct. They catch, the best lip reader catches approximately 30%, 30, not 100. So anybody, try turning off your TV without caption and try to see how much you can catch. Okay, it's hard. With me, my daughter says she has problems reading my lips because I speak too fast. Like Catherine said, my lips are very small and, you know, it's hard for her to read. If a gentleman has beard and mustache, it's hard for them to read lips as well. So they say, you know, try not to have nothing in your mouth, toothpick, pen, anything, because it's hard for them to read lips. Okay. Also, there's a basic, you know, some people say, well, like my son-in-law. My son-in-law is very friendly. If you see him, even though you don't know sign language, if you do gestures and just, you know, just point. My husband, when he was first learning sign, he did a lot of gestures, still does. And I asked my daughter once, Rosie, how do you communicate with my mom? My mom speaks Spanish and doesn't know sign language. I didn't realize they were using gestures. She said, oh, point over there, point here, point there, you know, and just, they do their own sign language. A lot of people have what they call home signs, you know, because they don't know sign language, but to them, drink, you know, or, you know, they get something that they all know how to say it, and that's what they say, sleep, sleep, you know, stuff like that. Or they just point.
I had a friend who had twin babies, and the cribs were in the same room, and they developed their own language where the poor mother could not, you know, and they would stand up in their cribs and talk to each other.
See? And that happens. But when you're talking to individuals with hearing loss, that can hear some but are struggling, like Catherine or myself, I'm already starting to lose some hearing on one ear. If you know, always ask, feel free to ask, what can I do to make it easier for the two of us to communicate? You know, there's many ways to communicate. So the person, that individual will be able to tell you the best way that's more effective to him or her. Okay, so that's the best thing I can offer is for y'all to say, you know, there's different types of communication, like speaking slow is the first one that we always say. Speak slow, clearly, but do not yell or exaggerate your speaking style. When I first found out Rosie was deaf, I used to go, Rosie, can you understand what I'm saying? And she used to laugh, Mom, you're funny. You're funny, she says, your face is funny. Like, you're exaggerating, don't need to exaggerate. And I'm like, okay, Rosie, can you understand what I'm saying? Yes, but I cannot read your lips. So it was hard for her, so I understand. Also, when you're talking to somebody that's deaf or hard of hearing, the lighting, if there's a light behind, sometimes too much light is hard for them to see you. Like when we go to a restaurant, and you know how sometimes it's kind of dark, but then there's this light, when there's like some kind of light source coming on the background, they see like a shadow only, so they're not seeing your signing, or it's hard for them to read your lips. So the light is very important where you sit. So usually people with hearing loss go to the restaurants when there's less people, less noisy, and pick an area where there's not so much noise. we have to consider that when we're talking to somebody with hearing loss. Also, repeat, first repeat and try to rephrase. If you say something and they didn't understand, don't repeat the same thing, rephrase it. So let's see, okay, I was telling you this, but this is what I'm, okay, so maybe we rephrase it. Sometimes it's easier for them to understand. And again, of course, the body language, the facial. It's like when the other day we were singing happy birthday. Imagine singing happy birthday to you, happy birthday. You're not even smiling. So it doesn't go with it. Happy birthday to you. Smile. You have to go with a word, with a sentence. The expression is very important to individuals with hearing loss. Also, you gotta choose the environment, like we said right now, where you are. If it's too noisy, take them somewhere else. There's people that say, I hear better on one ear than the other. So let them know. My ear, best ear is this one. Can you move over here and sit over here? Do you wanna talk to me? This morning I had a new client that says, people get so frustrated with me because I tell them I cannot hear. It's so hard when you're working with people and there's people that do not understand how to be patient with individuals that have hearing loss. But I always say, if that individual wants to talk to you, don't make the effort. If not, oh, well, we tried. You let them know, because you got to let them know you can hear. Because some people will not say I cannot hear because they're embarrassed. And then people think you're just being a stuck up or don't want to talk to them. But if you let them know, like when I told my daughter, you got to let them know you cannot see, because they thought my daughter was stuck up when she was in college. And she said, I don't want them to feel sorry for me. I said, no, this is not so they can feel sorry for you. This is so they can know if they want to communicate with you, you cannot see from here to here, you cannot hear. And that's the best way. The individual has to let the other individual know, I can hear, this is what's going to help me. So,
and Susana, I just wanted to bring up for a time check, we have 9 minutes left. So I know you wanted to go through the alphabet, right, with everyone?
Let's go over the alphabet and then I'll just send the 10 commandments because I didn't go over the 10 commandments. I'll just go over
that's
the 10
fine.
commandments.
Yeah. And then
I'm
I'm going to send out this, so Susana's going to share a little thing of the alphabet and we'll go through it and I'll send out to everyone too so we can all have it for our reference, which will be cool.
Okay, let me share this with you. Hey, and I want to thank Samantha. She showed me how to share. I didn't know how to do this. So thank you.
Of course.
Share. There you are. Can you all see it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let me bring it over here because I have to. There you go. Okay, there is the ABCs. I don't know how well you can see it, but.
Should we go through it all together?
Let's go all together, okay?
Great.
A is like, have you all seen the, hey, Happy Days? Remember he used to go, hey, that's the A. It's the whole hand closed like that. A. Okay, A. B is all this, and you just bend this. B. C is like you make the shape of the C. Okay. With two hands. All right, Carrie. D. D is like you fold this down, this, and you just leave this. This is the D. This, get your hands this down and this together. You touch this, this, this. D. There you go. E. Okay, E.
My
F.
hands are already cramping. I can't imagine.
Yeah. F is like okay. F. G. Just this number two. The G.
It's kind of like a little bit.
Am
I getting that right? Is it kind of like saying a little bit, but on the side? Like what do you say? Like
a little bit, but like this. Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm getting that right. Cool.
H is the two fingers, but this one, you get this like this two fingers and you're gonna put this there and go like that. But as long as they see this, they don't need to see the other side. As long as they see this, the two fingers like that, H, I is just close your this, and this is your I. The J is on the air with the I, but on the air. You just make the J.
Okay.
K is like peace, but you put this in the middle. K. So you put this finger in the middle. Okay, L, of course, that's the easy, L. M, you get this 3 fingers. You put them there, M. N, 2 fingers. So the M is 3, N is 2. O, it's just a regular O, 0. P, the P is like the K, but like this. Okay, the other way. And then Q is like the G, like a little bit, but down. So remember the P is like the K, but down. Q is like the G, but down. R is like kinkies or whatever we used to call it. Cross fingers. S, like the A, but closing a fist. T, you just get instead S and then go here, T. U, close fingers. V, open. W, the 3 fingers. X, like money. X. Y, like bulls. Y. The Z, just write it on the air. And I love you. And maybe, like I said, and every time we have a meeting, I can teach you a different word. But if you practice those on the mirror, you'll learn. I also will forward you about sign language classes, Samantha, where to obtain sign language classes. So that way they can learn. There's I think we have what we called a fact sheet on our website that's called Where to Learn Sign Language, and I can send that to you. There's an online site that you can learn. It's called www.asl.com. You can learn, there's videos, free videos that you can practice on. But I'll send you that information, okay?
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
I know we're almost out of time. So any questions? I told you I could go on and on. There's so much to learn, but at least if you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to email me as well or call me. You know, sometimes people think of stuff later.
I think Linda had a question.
I have a question, yeah.
Yes.
Are there any particular signs that are a full word rather than just the alphabet? Because you see people translating in court and stuff, and they're very fast.
Oh yes, but they're saying the word like water, the W, water.
Okay.
Most of the time, it starts with the first word, with the first letter. I mean, not always, but most of the time. Water is like this. Or banana is with a B, but you don't do banana. Banana, you get the finger, you peel the banana. So it's different. Apple with an A, you go apple. Right here, apple. Okay. On the side, apple. No. So there's different sign, different, see, D, different, with 2 Ds, different. And sign is just sign. Now they use sign before. This is language, L, language.
So there's an entire vocabulary.
So most of the time it starts with a first word, especially with the first letter. I mean, your name. How do you give some person their name? My name is Susie, Susana Santillan, 2 S's. My first sign was over here with an S. Usually when you don't know the person, you just go with the S and you spell it out, Susana Santillan. But once the deaf person meets you, they give you, because first they had given me, Rosie's name is here, Rosie, so I'm the mother of Rosie, so they used to go Susie. Then they changed it when I started working at the Deaf Center. I was a secretary. This is secretary. You're writing something. So they put it with an S, Susie. Then I became the advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing, so they changed it to Susie. When I started working at CSD, I had my hair perm, all wavy. So my boss changed it to Susie, and it stayed Susie.
Oh, wow.
I used to love,
That's
I used to
cool.
love to have my hair long and perm until I told you I burned my hair. Remember? We
Right.
talked at one of the
Yeah.
So my hair got burned. No more perm. So, but it stayed Susie because I always had long hair with Susie.
So it's kind of like you get nicknames even. It's like
Right.
a
My
nickname
daughter,
by doing that.
my daughter Cindy. Her name was Cindy here because Rosie, now the deaf community calls her Cindy because she's Rosie's sister. My daughter Celeste, she has long lashes. I mean, lashes. So it's with a C, Celeste. But Rosie calls her Celeste. This is stubborn. No, Celeste.
That's so funny. I had no idea.
I love
But
that.
her sign is Celeste, but Rosie said, no, Celeste, because she's stubborn. And Junior, my son Junior is just JR. You just call him JR. So it depends on you, you know, do you wear glasses or not wear glasses? Do you like music? You know, dancing. I know an interpreter, her name, she's a political dancer. Her name is Margarita with an M. So she dances. This is dancing. So it depends. We gotta find signings for each one of you.
Yes, I would love that.
Well, next time we meet, you can give me or email me what you like to do, and we can give you that. Like Louis, he's an artist with an L. This is we can use Louis.
Aw, that's so cool.
So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Susana. That was really
you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
and it wasn't just informational, it's just your story. And we love hearing people's stories here at our organization. What makes it very special is because each person has a very specific story and very specific experiences. So we really thank you for sharing your personal experience. You don't have to do that, and you do. It's really, thank you so much for sharing that.
It's what I am because of her. I always say, you know, God gave me that and we were so depressed, but now we're like, hey, we turn something bad to something good because we all work with the deaf community and disabled communities. So now we're able to give back to other people, like people gave us. So that's why I always say I'm so grateful now. But before it was like, oh, so when I hear people that come to my home and my office and say this, you'll be okay. I know at first you feel like I'm losing my hearing, but there's so much out there that can help you. Okay. You'll be good. Have a
we're so happy to have you part of our time bank. It's very valuable. We can utilize your knowledge to help with also being more inclusive to people that are hard of hearing too. So thank you. And awesome. Well, thanks everyone for coming to United Friday again. Every Friday at 2 o'clock. We have coffee hour every Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning. We do have a time bank orientation in July. It'll be July 16th. So let anyone know if anyone wants to join the time bank. We're also looking for people to be on United Friday. So if you know anyone that has a skill, or if you want to do it, I know a lot of people in here have already done one. So yeah, and I think that's it as far as announcements. Thank you all for joining, and Cruces Contigo too. If you want to join Cruces Contigo, that's also another thing. Or if you know someone that might be lonely, definitely we can refer them to the program. Other than that, I think we'll pick a word, and Susana, if you could pick a word that we'll end on today, and then clap 3 times and be able to leave.
Well, I say let's all be thankful today. TGIF.
Yes. Oh, we'll say it. Yes. So we'll sign. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go ahead and count down, and we'll sign and say thank you or thankful. And everyone have a great weekend. So 3, 2, 1.
Thankful.
Thank you or thankful.
Bye, everybody.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Remember, practice.
Yes, practice.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's the biggest single day so far.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Florence. Bye, Mom. Bye, Sam.
Bye.
Bye, Catherine.
Bye.